Great. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to Lehigh County Authority Board of Directors meeting. Today is Monday, 23rd of February. The meeting is being conducted in the hybrid fashion, either live in person or Zoom or the phone calls. The agenda for the meeting has been this meeting and the package has been sent via the mail or emails and posted on the website. Before we get into the meeting, we have a new member on the board, Minal. I would like to welcome her to the board. Minal, if you want to take 2 minutes, just introduce yourself to the board member before we go to the roll call for the board member, please.
I'm Minal, everyone. Nice to meet everyone. I am a Penn State grad. I'm a civil engineer. I've been in the Lehigh Valley for almost 7 years now. I'm originally from the Mechanicsburg area. I moved here about 7 years ago to join a startup on Hamilton Street. And about 3 years ago, we got acquired by a larger firm, Remington and Vernick Engineers. So I've been working on Hamilton Street for the past 7 years now. And a lot of coordination with Lehigh County Authority over the last 7 years, because a lot of the projects that we do are in the city of Allentown, and you need full sewage planning. Some projects that you all might know is Archer Music Hall, St. Luke's Hospital, Mother Baby expansion, everything on the riverfront. And I'm really excited to be a part of the board and, bring my perspective as a civil engineer to kind of, help with the goals that the board has.
Well, welcome aboard. It's a pleasure to have you.
Welcome aboard.
Yes.
Getting back to the agenda. Lisa, could I have the roll call for the board director meeting, please?
Paul aboard. Amir Famili.
Here.
Jeff Morgan.
Here.
Ed Lyons.
Here.
Rosenfeld. Linda.
Here.
Kevin Baker. Sean Ziller.
Here.
Here.
Here. We have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 board members present.
That's great.
That is a quorum. We do just note that with that 8th board member, our quorum is now set at 5.
Okay.
So.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. Going to the reviewing the agenda, any changes on the agenda or any need for the executive session?
There are no changes to the agenda as published, but we do have an executive session planned for following the regular meeting to discuss property acquisition.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Moving to the next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes from February 9th. Linda?
I move that the minutes be approved.
And I second.
Okay, the motion made by Linda, second by Sean. All in favor, say aye.
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 Yep, thank you. There's no committee report. Any public comment?
No, thank you, Amir.
Okay. Moving to the action. The first items under finance and administration are the board of the director election of the offices. And Sean, would you mind please to conduct this portion of the meeting?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. So at the request of the chair and for traditional reorganization, I had conducted via email solicitation of the board to see for existing board members or officers who would still be interested in holding their position, and then other board members who may be interested in board seats. Following that outreach and some discussion, I would put forward the following slate of board officers as follows. Chair is Amir Famili, Vice Chair Jeff Morgan, Secretary Linda Rosenfeld, Assistant Secretary Sean Ziller, Treasurer Ted Lyons, and Assistant Treasurer Kevin Baker.
Put it to the vote.
See if there are any other nominations.
Okay, is there any other nomination?
Hearing none, you can close the nomination.
Okay, if we don't hear none, we're gonna close the nomination and move to, we have to vote on it, is that correct? So all favor on this nomination collectively, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, Sean, for taking on those tasks. I really appreciate that.
Certainly.
The next item that we have is the, do I have the right agenda, safety process, is that correct? The safety process and procedure is a discussion. If you remember about, I don't know, a month and a half ago, we asked about getting an update on the safety process, and that's the follow-up for that request.
Yes. So for this one, we have, it looks like Kevin's coming in just now. We have a presentation, and the presentation will focus on 2025 incidents and what we learned from that, and 2026 strategies moving forward, and we can have discussion throughout. Ed will do the primary presentation, but we also have Jeff Nelson on the call. He's our safety manager. Unfortunately, it wasn't able to be here in person, so between Jeff and Ed, we'll have a full presentation. Let me just get that up on the screen. And acknowledging that Kevin Baker is in the meeting. Ed, do you want to take it away?
Yep, so, as Lisa mentioned, her request from the board, for some information on what happened with respect to safety in 2025, and what we intend to do for 2026. We put together a number of slides that I think will help you understand what went on, some of the things that, occurred in 2025, and kind of the new things that we're looking to do in 2026. So just taking a look at the 2025 incident level, we had a total of 33 incidents that's broken down into 13 vehicle, 9 first aid, and 11 recordables. So on the employee side of safety, you would say 20 total incidents. So you got 13 and 20. The other things that went on in 2025 is we were attempting to become, I'll call it equipment compliant, was additional fire resistant clothing that we took on. We kind of re-looked at and revamped our insurance model, included a consultant for us on the insurance side, redid all of the insurance out there that with respect to LCA. And so we have a new consultant and new insurers. We hope that that will give us more effectiveness, more efficiency, and provide us some lower premium costs, because the bidding process revealed some things to us along the way. 2026, the things that stick out as what we're prioritizing to do would be take a look at hazard ID, take a look at tool standards. As you will see coming up, there was quite a few incidents that had some form of root cause in this tooling area, and the use of tools. The driver training with respect to the vehicle incidents, and additional PP&E and visibility clothing. So again, 20 total injuries broken out into 11 recordable incidents, or any incidents that require more attention than just normal first aid. They could be where you have prescription drugs, you could have some some additional medicines, and that would become a recordable. Recordables also get broken down into recordables with restricted time on employees, also with lost time as well. So that 11 there is a combination of all of them. I'll call it beyond first aid level incidents. Minor incidents in the neighborhood of 9 and 13 fleet incidents, as we talked about before. Just looking at the composition, the first aid incidents would be 45%, and the recordable incidents, or 55% of the total number of incidents that we had in 2025. Risk patterns that we've seen when higher amount of ergonomic strain, 50% of the recordables were attributed to that. A number of incidents occurred to lack of hazard awareness, and that's being able to assess the environment, being able to see what the risks are, and how you can eliminate or mitigate the risks that are staring at you if you recognize them. And most of the vehicle was related to visibility deficits. Jeff, anything you want to add so far?
No, so I think you hit it on the head. Like, really, a lot of these incidences, when we went back and looked at the data points, improving, like, hazard recognition is going to be huge in 2026. One thing I would highlight is that was kind of impressive, or not impressive, sorry, shocking, was that over 50% of our injuries were recordable related to upper ergonomic strains in the upper extremities. So really getting the right tools for the job that the teams are doing is going to really help drive these numbers down towards the future.
Yeah, thank you. So as you look at incidents and you take the time to investigate incidents and record what's going on with the surrounding hazard, look at what happened, who was involved, what went on. We started to a couple of root cause categories that were standing out as primary drivers of our incidents. First one is training. Second one would be PPE, and then you start to build up a little bit more. That's the hazardous condition we were talking about, and that's basically not completely recognizing the things that are out there to get you. The tools and equipment, there were a number of incidents where we had maybe not use the right tool for the circumstance. Maybe you had the right tool, didn't use it properly or correctly. And then the last situation would be situational awareness, and that was the big hitter for the 20 incidents. Primary driver was situational awareness, and that was 40%, and tools and equipment related to 30%. So they're 70% of the total, 100% of the 20 incidents. So in terms of taking the root causes and turning them into our response to the root cause, employee training was first. That was an issue in 2 incidents. PPE standardization was responsible for 2 more incidents. Tool assessment really hit us for 6 incidents, and the remainder was hazard identification.
Question, if I could, for those of us, familiar with the OSHA, what's going on there, trips and falls are really big. I mean, they're like almost half. How do we do on falls in particular?
I'll let Jeff answer that. I could say, just looking at the activity in 2025, it wasn't so much trips and falls that came back. I can't remember if we had any, Jeff.
We had a few, but the majority of ours were kind of in that situational awareness category, not able to identify, something before it becomes like we had a few of them, but most of our injuries were more related to the tools and equipment aspect of it. But we can break that and add that data in the future for slip, trip, and falls if you're looking by nature.
Yeah, not a big hitter for us. I mean, some, but there was other things that really had more of an impact on the safety program than the trips and falls. Again, 2025 identified gaps. We had a high frequency of the ergonomic strain. We had several incidents due to lack of hazard awareness, as we mentioned along the way. The visibility deficits were more like blind spots, et cetera. Strategic responses to them would be a little bit better at taking a look at the hazards that are out there, doing a better work safety assessment, taking a look at maybe the hazards on a job safety analysis level. We want to also go into a little bit more formalized hazard identification, and make that part of our daily workflow and startup procedures. And then we want to start to standardize PP&E with 5-point breakaway, and I'll let you talk about what 5-point breakaway is.
Yeah, that's more of a PPE vest, making sure that we have the right vest standards when we're in the field with our teams, and making sure everyone has the right equipment on when it comes to proper safety vests that are easy to break away in case something attaches to it, and we're not kind of locked in, especially with the tools that our teams be handling in the field. That has a lot of machinery movement and etc. So really re-standardizing our PPE process so that way, if we find a defect inside of our PPE, we can address it because we're all on the same type of PPE and not have different types of PPE throughout our network.
I'll let you talk about the uniform
Yep.
look.
So
you were intimately involved with this.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that we discovered in 2025 was a lot of our field operators are working with live pumps and water environments that are over 120 volts. So one of the biggest changes coming from the plants department is moving our team into fire resistant everyday wears. Because of the electrical assessment that was performed and the type of jobs. Last year, we had our NFPA week-long training for about 14 people. This year in March, we're having another set. So we're working towards getting all the operators and in the plant department trained in NFPA 70E to be considered qualified workers. Additionally, next week, we're actually fitting all the plants with everyday wears as part of their new daily uniform, so they're always protected. Additionally, we have upgraded to insulated tools. And then we are also working on gloves that are going to be rotated every 6 months by Centos. So that way we stay on top of the NFPA requirements. When it comes to EHS Insight, this is the data that you're seeing now. A lot of data that we're continually building on. The biggest point of this is allowing us to move from a paper environment to a more electronic environment. We're still growing in that field, but as you see, we're now being able to capture data a little bit more quicker, and be able to see trends and follow trends and be able to put systems in place to try to prevent injuries from occurring with this new EHS Insight data.
Before we move on, Jeff, I think a key ingredient to the EHS is it can allow for a lot of data, analytical data, with respect to incidents and to the point where, how long has somebody been working before they had the incident? How many days in a row have they been on? What was the specific circumstances going on at the time in terms of weather, on other contributing factors. And I think for us, EHS, and that basically is what we're calling our database for safety data and safety management is, it's important to realize that that should drive a much better approach to incident recording, incident analysis, incident investigation, and help us get to root causes that require corrective action, and also help us look at corrective action and what are we doing with it.
So in the Munis system, if I recall correctly, we don't have an EHNS module, right?
This is outside of Munis, yes. This is a separate standalone system. Well, Jeff, you might be aware of some things where there might be some synergy between Munis and EHS, but that's not the way that it really runs right now. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. It's a separate platform. I can partner with whoever, with Brooke and team on Munis, see what opportunities we have. But this platform is strictly safety related, and us building our safety management culture and program.
This system allow you to record incident and assign a lead for the corrective action, and when the corrective action is taken in place, somebody goes in there and record what they have taken, what corrective action is taken, and communicate to all the safety leads to communicate what has happened and what is the corrective action. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's the program we're starting to build towards right now. Yes, sir.
So you don't have the program, you're trying to build that program.
We do have the corrective actions, which is part of root cause categories that we're selecting, and each of those categories have corrective actions that are being signed and tracked. The building out piece of it, sir, is more related to getting more synergy around closure, how many corrective actions are closed versus open, getting progress statuses and stuff like that, that's still continually being built out in the system.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You can talk about this one.
Okay.
So on this one.
Yeah, so one thing I noticed when I arrived here is our insurance model was a shared program with other agencies. Our premiums continue to go up, even though we have minimum losses associated with that. In the 30 years that we were in the program, we had a total of 316 claims, which are extremely, extremely low. So one thing we did in comparison to my past life is we went out and went the self-insured model route. Reason why we did that is because we should be benefiting from all the productive things we're doing from a safety perspective, insurance perspective, and especially when it comes to how we manage our properties. We should be, showing savings because we're doing the right things. And in that previous program, we wasn't. So we were able to coordinate with USI, who is our insurance business broker. And what they do is they actually present insurance programs to us so we can evaluate versus telling us what to get into. And there's no brokerage fees assigned with this USI as well. So we have a flat fee. So last year alone in the property is almost $70,000 in savings that we had by doing the self-insurance model. So it was a big win for LCA as we start to see, the claims that we have are really controllable claims when it comes to sewage and water breaks and stuff like that. So we can go out and, assure ourselves in appropriate models. And then the last thing we have here is this third-party oversight. One thing is the engineering team is huge on helping me on this project. This is a system that will allow us to have a process in place, not that we don't have a process in place, but a process to be able to control our COIs, understand the type of vendors we want inside working for LCA, really doing a ERM, which is the risk scoring processes. So that way, when people are doing work on behalf of LCA, we're thoroughly going through a true vendor qualification process to make sure they have all the proper insurances that they need, and that we're following up with the proper insurances and any kind of certification paperwork and items like that. So this is a big piece for our business this upcoming year. and being able to make sure that we have the right people in the system, the right people doing the work, and also paying attention to what their safety record is as well, like how many recordables they had fatalities, and giving us a little bit more qualification for our vendors to work on behalf of LCA.
The numbers that you presented for the injury and last time, so on and so forth, are only for LCA employees, not
Yes.
for the vendors.
Correct.
Do we
Yes.
have a number for vendors where while they were working at LCA got injured and they needed to be reported to the OSHA?
These are internal reports, because we are not OSHA at this point in time, as I understand it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes, so let's understand. OSHA does not regulate our safety activity right now. Someday, and that's coming down the road. We'll be as responsible as a third-party contractor now. And that would be that we'll be reporting what we do internally and also what our contractors are doing. Now, Jeff has talking about this old third-party oversight. Am I correct, Veriforce?
Yes, sir.
Right. The whole purpose of Veriforce is to actually take your contractors and bring in their performance record with respect to construction sites, safety as well. So we'll know when there's safety issues from our vendors through that program. We per se do not have a number to give you through 2025 on how many contractor injuries there were on a site where they were doing work for us.
We do not track the contractor injury through our system.
I could imagine that the only way we would do that right now is through Veriforce, but I'm sure that we can incorporate something into EHS as well. Yes?
We could definitely, yes, sir. We could do that. And additionally, on top of that, part of our contractor onboarding from a safety process in the future, as we get down that path, is for them to report any incidences to us. I can't say that, are we getting incidences reported to us, but we have to make the vendors know that we want, if there's an incident that occurs on our property, that they report it to us. So setting that baseline first is going to be huge as we go down this journey.
This is my opinion, from my 35 years experience and people working the plan, a contractor came, we always track the contractor injury because that contractor could be our employee doing that task. So learning what has happened to them would help us to improve our safety, overall safety. So I think tracking those, maybe we don't have to report it, but tracking and see what caused that, then you can make your overall safety for the entire employee, better.
I think you're spot on. I agree with you. And I think Jeff would as well. And I think that the purpose of Veriforce is to at least make us aware what some of the records is. But, we can certainly go and see if we could track what happens as part of the, I'll call it the contract hiring process. We could certainly demand that if somebody gets hurt, they have to report it to us as well. And then we would have that built into what we do in our safety program as additional information with respect to certain contractors that may or may not have any safety issues per se, depending on the trends. So I agree. I think it's a good thing. So
you said that, we do not have to report as we would if we were subject to OSHA. And are we making preparations to move,
Oh, yeah.
you can always start to do it in advance of having to do it, which is often prudent.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a valid point. I mean, essentially, if you remember maybe me sitting here maybe a little bit while ago saying, we don't report to OSHA now, but they're doing everything in their power to start to resurrect OSHA is the primary governing force on safety across every type of business, especially in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, how far that goes federally, I don't know the answer to that. But, we recognized that maybe 2 years ago, maybe even longer than that. And the purpose for all of the stuff that we're talking about today is so that we know what to do to mitigate or eliminate hazards and risks that are out there, but also be transitioned and prepared for the day that OSHA walks in and says, now I am the boss, and we will at least not be in state of shock because we're moving in that direction.
Sounds like you're rather close on a number of areas here. I would contend, from what I know, what I've heard about, your reportables, they're actually, it's a lower, recordables are at a lower standard than what would be required for OSHA. I believe with OSHA, it's recordable only if a person is admitted to the hospital. Say someone has to go to a emergent care or whatever, and they're treated and released. But of course, lost time is all subject to it. So you're close on annual reporting, and then also having people trained in OSHA, 32-hour as a minimum standards there. And I think it's a good thing to work toward in advance, and you'll be
Yes.
compliant in advance of it. You'll be all that much better off.
We don't want to be caught off guard when that day comes. And so I think we're moving in the right direction now. I think, as you talk about the number of incidents, on a relative basis, we're really not doing that bad as you compare us to maybe other municipal authorities, maybe some third-party businesses. We're not that bad, but at the end of the day, injuries are preventable, and we want to do everything in our power to prevent them, so.
Yeah, and your nomenclature is pretty close, although you don't add the OSHA, the reportables, which are, loss of an eye, loss of an appendage, or a death. And there you have very certain time, time constraints in order to report to OSHA and all that. And so it's good. And then question, do you have management participation in the safety committees or safety committee?
We have, Jeff, go ahead. You can describe the safety. I can describe the EHS steering committee is made up of the management team, along with Jeff from risk management and Liesel. Okay. So that is the primary driver, but we have a number of, I'll call it functional area safety committees as well. And I'll let Jeff talk about what they're doing and what they're up to.
Yeah, so we do have each department. We have 5 additional safety committees. We have a main office committee, a suburban field service, and Allentown field service combined. And then we have a suburban plants. We have an Allentown wastewater safety committee, and then a Allentown filtration safety committee. Each of the directors sit on each of their committees and are heavy partners with myself to align this process, along with the employees being involved in these meetings as well. So that way we can ensure that we are doing things and addressing these items. We are starting to get more near miss reporting and concern reporting, and starting to be proactive in different things, such as we're actually working with USI, our vendor, to certify our committee, all our committees with the state as a state certified safety committee, which will be a big benefit. Even though we don't get a discount on our workers' comp insurance, it's still a good moment because it kind of resets those guidelines as we start this journey to when OSHA comes in, we're already ahead of the game and are able just to function within our normal environment. So some of the key 2026 strategies that we are focusing on this year, again, we highlighted earlier in the conversation, enhancing hazard identification, improving our safety eyes, seeing things that could be a potential incident before it becomes an incident is the biggest thing. Improving our driver and fleet by, through training, through different types of movements that we can have them do, from close quarter training, defensive driving training. Really standardizing our equipment and the type of equipments we have for our teams to utilize, and seeing what we can do to improve that, making less processes that are manual and making them more automative, so that way we can reduce the ergonomic strain, and then standardizing our PPE, so that way we know, no matter who you are with LCA, everybody has the same PPE when it comes to safety vests, hard hats, and then standardizing the gloves that we have from, make sure they work in different environments, and being able to affect more of that visibility and PPE standard. So again, around these strategies, when we do this, some of the things that really going to help improve our safety management and risk management system overall is really policy development, continue to develop in our policy and procedures, improving our claim management process, especially when it comes to external claims and handling those. Continue to optimize our system when it comes to safety management. If we identify gaps, making sure we address those gaps immediately and not letting them get too big. And then also risk reduction strategies, partnering with different aspects of our business unit to do risk reduction plans, and making sure our buildings are, part of that risk reduction, and we're starting to grab more barriers around those opportunities. So again, this is our data-driven decision framework that we utilize here. As you see along the bottom is this enabling these types of technologies with dashboards, contract evaluations, claim system, EHS insight, capturing the incident, we analyze the incident, and then we act, monitor, and learn, right? Always having that continuous improvement model as we work through safety management and doing safety here at LCA and continuing to improve it. So, nope, that's fine. Go to the next slide. So, again, our starting point in 2025 was 20 incidences. We would like to see a reduction. So, we want to be very proactive, even more proactive compared to the past, and creating, removing barriers or opportunities that might slow people down. But also, like I always tell our teams when we do it in our employee meetings, comparison to my past life, we're doing something really great here. I think we're just not telling our stories. Like, I think our teams are fixing issues and not putting it in as a near miss. I think our teams are out here doing things and safely, automatically, and we're not telling our story a little bit. And we're going to focus really on 2026 to be able to have those people tell our stories, because it happens in one department doesn't mean it's not happening in another department, and get that cross-functional department asset working, so we can reduce it for one LCA.
You have a culture within the organization that, people do report when there are incidents as opposed to hiding them, such that, the problems you see are the problems you can fix. Do they report?
I think that was some of the reason why we saw some increase in numbers, was that actually what might not have been reported before has now been reported. I guess I can only say that I would like to see a little bit more in terms of near misses, because they can also prevent some incidents from happening in advance of, that reality. And I would like to see more of that. If I saw some more numbers of things that could happen or did happen and didn't result in an injury, and that we could do something about it so it didn't turn into an injury, I would say then we're doing okay. We're doing well. And I'd kind of like to see that, and I think Jeff would as well, so.
Well, it's better if you know about it, work with it versus being.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned earlier about the doing some compliance with NFPA, just so you're aware, I know the city of Allentown, AFD, works on the IFC standard, but not NFPA. I think they're very close. The International Fire Code, I think, is what Allentown uses. I don't know what the other municipalities use, but you may want to, keep that in mind, because they work off of IFC. And also with your hazardous materials, hopefully you're looking at hazards there through the GHS standards, the global harmonized standards, versus NFPA. NFPA, their rankings on hazards are completely opposite of the global harmonized standards that I personally find annoying, and I've had employees in my company that work with NFPA and it's, the world is gone with another metric and that's where it needs to stay, but anyway.
Yep, Jeff, comment?
No,
Yes.
I'm aligned. Yep, I agree. I mean, I think we're going down the right journey.
Oh,
Any other question? Just a couple of things from my end. I didn't see anything about promoting the culture of safety on your priority for 2026. I think, having the culture of safety is really essential. I remember when I joined our product, the CEO of the company came to our meeting. He said, safety is a condition for employment. And he made it very clear. He said, nothing prior, no profit, nothing would precede safety. And that was his stance. I think having the culture of safety is really essential that we put as part of priority for our 2026. Can you guys elaborate on the SWP procedure that we have in place? Safe work practices.
safe work practices?
You have SWP, correct? You have SWP, is that correct or not?
I don't know. I can't answer that, Jeff. SWP, do we have a SWP program per se?
Standard work practices is when you say SWP, is that what
Yes.
you're referencing? Yeah, safe work practices. Yeah, we have a framework that we're starting to develop now as we get out here into these different tasks and job functions. One of the biggest keys this year is having these tasks being laid out in front of the in a procedure, safe work procedure process, and being able to identify that.
Yeah, the reason I mentioned that, because a lot of the injury happened, let me, step back for a second. Every equipment needs to have a standard of safety work practice that as things changes, people have to go and update that. And people have to be reviewing the safe work practices in the safety meetings. So people recognize, remind them what was the safety or standard work practice for each equipment. And some of the reason that people have those injury is because they forgot about the standard or safety work practices. So SWP is really one of the core concept on the every safety programs. So think about it. Is that something that you want to update your safe work practices for the equipment, review them at your monthly whatever safety meetings you have, and make sure that people sign off on the equipment that they have reviewed, understand the safe work practices. I think that's really one of the core principle of every safety program. So just at least it worked in our case when we were working, in obviously much larger organization. Any other question for?
Excuse me.
Yeah, you say SW, I'm used to job hazard analysis.
Okay. Yeah, Jess, so that's.
I would say though, we did pick that in the hazard identification. What you're referencing there, sir, is what we're going to move towards. It's called a point of work assessment. That point of work assessment is kind of like a complacency checklist before people start their job to be able to review the safety functions related to that job, make sure they have the right PPE, the right equipment. So part of our initiatives with this hazard identification process and improving that is that point of work assessment, which is very similar to a SWP.
Well, thank you for the presentation.
Yes, sir.
You have a lot of work in front of you, and always remember the only number which is matter in safety is number 0. There is nothing else, because you don't want any of your family member get hurt, and and LCA is a family. And you don't want any of your family member who comes to work, you want them to leave work the same condition they come to work. I think that has to be the culture that we have, because a big family, our safety of employees is always the number one priority for us. So please make sure that culture, that message get around to everybody at the team. I said, thank you again. for your presentation. Appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I just want to ask Ed to add comments about moving forward our reporting to the board.
Okay.
That was one of the.
Yeah, we're still trying to develop what we think are the proper metrics for it. So, and we've had a number of different ideas and stabs at it. And I believe that we're ready to say that, and when we get into the monthly report for next month, that we'll be able to provide you something that you can see on a regular basis and not have to wait until the end of the year presentation to do that.
Okay. We very appreciate that. Thank you again. Thank you for the whole team. I do recognize changing the culture is a difficult task, but this is very important. I appreciate for you guys taking the lead on that one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to the next items, it is the Applewood pump station and CLD well station upgrade. It is for approval. It's a green paper digital package, page number 9 to 19.
Yes, so Amy Kunkel is going to present this project. This is an upgrade of the Applewood pump station, which is located next to our Reservoir One, which is located about a half-mile northwest of Fogelsville Village. This project is to upgrade that well station and implement improvements to restore performance per the spec. And also there's an upgrade to 3 suburban central Lehigh division well stations related to chemical feed system. So with that, I'll turn it over to Amy.
Okay, so this project is actually a couple of improvements to a couple different facilities in our central Lehigh division. The first one being the Applewood pump station. The primary item for the pump station is replacing our jockey pump with a new dual jockey pump system. The station currently has a jockey pump for your normal flows, a booster pump for higher flows, and then a fire pump for fires. And what operations has been seeing due to changes in the systems and additional connections and such, that the jockey pump can't really keep up with the average demands now. And what that does is kicks the booster pump on, which gives a little too much and ends up recirculating. It's overall, it's become less efficient. So we're looking to replace that jockey pump with 2 that will act slightly larger and handle most of those flows. While we're doing that, we're also making related piping modifications for that, electrical and HVAC upgrades as well to that station. For the well stations, we have 3 wells, wells 5, 6, and 9. All 3 of them, we'd like to increase the capacity of the sodium hypochlorite feed system. Larger storage tanks, new pumps, new containment, fill lines, some HVAC system improvements there to help control the temperature, to get the most out of our sodium hypochlorite light. You know, it can be dependent on temperature, the effectiveness of it. So each of those, the 2 of the well stations won't need a building expansion because they have a room that's not being utilized right now that we can make some internal adjustments and use that room. Well, 6 needs to have a small bump out to the station. It's approximately 45 square feet. I think it's 9 by 5 bump out to accommodate the larger sodium hypochlorite tanks. We had the firm CHA do a planning memo for these different different improvements, where they did some preliminary design and looked at, you know, what the impacts, these needs, and then what the impacts to the stations would be. So we would like to continue using them for the design phase, which would be taking it up through building. They gave us a proposal for $139,200 for that. That includes the finalizing the design, permitting, electrical design, and then, bidding. That, and then what I am requesting is an authorization for $164,200, which includes a little bit of staff time and some things in addition to the professional services CHA.
So if I could just add a clarification. So Applewood Pump Station, it's fed by Reservoir One, and it feeds the Applewood development, which is where Penn State Lehigh Valley used to be located. So it's a critical pump station because if it wasn't for that station, we couldn't feed that area. So it moves the pressure. We can't feed that area by gravity from Reservoir One. So it's a very important pump station.
Thank you. Any question?
Yeah, you mentioned tanks for the hypochlorite. Are those permanent fixed tanks, or you're not talking about IBCs? So you transfer from either from a tanker or from an intermediate bulk container into your
Into
tanks.
these tanks, the vendor comes and fills the tanks.
Just want to make sure you weren't referring to IBCs on site there.
Any other question?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I know this is a PSA. Did you bid this out? I'm sorry, did I miss that? Was this bid out?
No, we did not bid this work out. We had CHA who's very familiar with our suburban water systems, our pump stations. They did the preliminary engineering, and then we want to award the design work to them. We feel they are the best qualified for this work.
Got it. I guess my question is, you're not required to, correct?
No, not for professional services.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Any other question from the board member? Hearing none, okay. So there's a capital expenditure for $164,200 for the Applewood pump stations and the wells number 5, 6, and 9 for the design phase.
I'll make that motion. Sean.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay, motion made by Sean, second by Peter. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. You got the green light.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to note that Kevin Baker has joined and Ted Lyons has left, so we still have 7
Okay.
for the record.
I do only need 5. Right?
Ted said it was time for the poll.
Moving to the next item on the agenda is the Allentown Division large diameter valve rehab and replacement program. This is on blue pages, digital package pages number 20 to 23.
Okay, I'm going to present this one. So this project was the first, what we call the first cycle of an annual program to replace large valves in the city that are inoperable or in otherwise poor condition. We learned several years back with the water main break at Devonshire how important it is to be able to isolate water service areas, and that's pretty much hatched this program to do an annual project. So we have this project being substantially completed by the end of the year, and we ran into some additional pavement restoration because of additional roadway openings due to unforeseen subsurface conditions, unforeseen proximity of pipes, of taps and interconnection pipes. We had to install additional infrastructure underground. That consisted of an additional insertion valve, a 12-inch insertion valve, relocating a commercial tap that required a 6-inch line stop and a 6-inch insertion valve, and additional piping that all entailed much larger roadway openings than we anticipated. So the contractor ran over in his contract quantities. So this is a final adjusting change order to pay the contractor for the additional permanent pavement restoration.
Any question?
Just curious, where at on 12th Street was it? Right near where it intersects Lehigh Street, Jeff. Nice location. Oh, yeah, super busy location. Traffic control was a mess. And the contractor did a good job, but we just ran over in our contract quantities.
Any other question from the board members? Okay, so we have CE in front of us for the amount of $106,998 for the this one, correct, this for large diameter valve rehab and replacement program. This is a change order from the original one that we approved many months ago. So can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Peter.
Second. Second.
Thank you, Linda. Motion by Peter, second by Linda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Moving to the next one is the Allentown Division for Water Filtration Plant HVAC upgrade. It is yellow pages, a digital package, page 24 to 34.
This one is for Anton. Are you gonna introduce?
Yeah, I'll introduce you, please. So Anton is going to present this. He is snowed in today. So from the comfort of his living room, what this project is, it's a second phase of a program to update the aging HVAC system at the water filtration plant. This project is focused on the first floor laboratory and operations area, and also the entire second floor. So with that, and then this is a major capital project with the city. I'll turn it over to Anton. Anton, are you there?
Yeah, thanks, Chuck. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, great. Yeah, so I am presenting to the board today to get authorization, approval for the construction phase of this project. As Chuck said, this is phase 2 of a 2-phase HVAC upgrade project to the water filtration plant. Phase 1 included the first floor customer care and offices. Phase 2 is the opposite side of the hallway on the first floor, so lab area, operators control room, and then the entire second floor. As Chuck also stated, this is funded from the Allentown Division and has received approval for major capital improvement from the compliance office, and it's eligible for capital cost recovery. Going through the memo, the construction phase, assuming approval today, will be 9 months to substantial completion and 310 days for final completion. This is also assuming that we should be done around this time or January 2027. The design was done by CHA Consulting. They also did phase 1 of this project. Part of this approval includes CHA's construction administration contract for $115,000. The work itself was sent out to bid on January 5th of 2026 via pen bid. We held a pre-bid meeting on January 12th, and bids were opened on February 5th. The results of those bids were good. They were substantially below our engineer's opinion of cost. Estimated amount for that work was just under 1.8 million, and our two contracts, which were a general mechanical contract and then a electric construction contract, combination of those was 1.3 million. So substantially below the 1.8 that was estimated, which is definitely a positive. For our summaries of those two contracts that were bid, we had three bidders for the general HVAC contract, with ASL Refrigeration being the apparent low bidder. They were the GC and HVAC contractor on phase one. So they do have, I think it'll be a smooth transition into the other side of the building. They're familiar with our policies. They were satisfactory to work with for phase one, and that work has already been completed. The electric contract was bid. We had two bids submitted, with Billetier Electric being the apparent low bidder at $97,252. ASL, as I said, we do have experience with, I believe, on several projects, even outside of the phase one work at filtration. But Billetier is a new contractor for LCA. We did review their required history for experience, and CHA, as part of their bid review process, reached out to them, confirmed that they did cover everything that was required in our bid documents, and also spoke with their references. CHA locally has not worked with Billetier's local arm, but they do, both CHA and Billetier have offices in Rochester, New York, and throughout the Mid-Atlantic. Billetier has a few. In speaking with them, they do seem to be appropriate and have the good experience to complete this work locally. They've completed several large projects, including one at Parkland High School in 2025 for $307,000, and at the Allentown School District in 2024 for just over $700,000. So we do feel that they are would be responsible in completing this work. As I said, professional service authorization for this construction phase is requesting to be awarded to CHA Consulting. They completed the design portion of this project, and we'd like to award them the construction administration as well. The total for this authorization, including construction and construction administration, is $1,533,822. Again, that is cost recoverable, and that is listed as a useful life of 15 years, which that's the span of time that will recover that cost through rate increases. Again, project schedule, if awarded today at this meeting, contracts will be executed by March 26th, 2026, with final construction completed in January of 2027.
Yeah, thank you. Any question for Anthony? No question? Okay. So we have a C in front of us for the amount of $533,822.90.
Move it to be approved.
Linda made a motion.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you, Linda. So Linda made the motion. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, so Linda made the motion and the second by Sean. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, the motion passed. You got it, Anton.
All right, thank you.
Moving to the next item on the agenda on the wastewater is the Suburban Division KISS Act 537 Upper Western Lehigh Pump Station and Force Main. It's a salmon color pages 35 to 41.
Mr. Chairman, we had actually revised the agenda, republished the agenda
Okay.
with the pretreatment plant topic. We can do this one first, it's fine.
Okay,
I just wanted to make sure you were that.
sorry, I did not
We'll
read
do this one
the.
since you introduced it.
Yeah, let's finish that when we come back to
Very
that.
good.
Okay, I was gonna say last but not least, but you're not last. Amy's gonna present this one. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, as you're probably aware, the Upper Western Lehigh Pump Station in Force Main is being built to help, alleviate, capacity issues in the Trexler Town portion of our interceptor. It's under construction right now. Back in October of 2025, I came to the board meeting to ask for a change order for a sinkhole that developed on the site. That was approved. The sinkhole was repaired in November. And about a month later, in December 22nd, a second sinkhole appeared on site. Do you have that? Okay, good. This is a photograph of the sinkhole. I think you can see it. One is looking one direction and the other direction, but you can see where it just dropped there. It's approximately 8 by 10 feet in size. In the second photo where the man's standing there looking over the manhole, that is kind of the area where the first sinkhole had developed. So this one is just to the east of the limits from where we did the repair. It's not very exciting to look at this, but it is of concern because it is right over our interceptor. So we asked Blooming Glen, our contractor, to give us another price. They had Earth Engineering go out, the geotechnical firm. We use them. Our contractor uses them. They did the remediation plan for the first sinkhole. They came out, identified it, and came up with a similar plan to the first one, to install pressure grouting, basically down to 50 feet or bedrock, whichever comes first. And the grout's being put in primarily to stabilize underneath our interceptor. We actually have, there's two interceptors, if you want to go to the next slide. Two interceptors in parallel, one heads towards the pretreatment plant and one takes the effluent away from the pretreatment plant. So the cross hatching is where the new sinkhole developed. If you look down below that, those points and the lighter cross hatching, that was the first repair. And then these darker points are going to be the injection sites for the new repair. To kind of stabilize both of those interceptors. There will also be monitoring the interceptors while they do it so that the grouting doesn't cause any uplift in the interceptor. But essentially, it's the same as the first. Same as the first repair, just in the new location. This location is actually going to be where we will be paving for access to the new pump station and parking. So it needs to be done. The price we were given for earth engineering's design and then for the remediation was $152,875.83. That again is a time and materials estimate to do the work. However, we feel that it's a closer estimate than the first change order was, because they kind of have a better sense of how much grout and that they will be using.
Any question? Here now, we have the capital expenditure for the amount of $152,875.83 for the Upper Western Lehigh Interceptor Pump Station. This is change order number 3.
Make the motion to.
Peter made a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Peter made the motion and Jeff the second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I just have a follow-up
Thank you.
question. So has there been any TV work in the interceptors, floating a camera or anything there to make sure that everything's A-okay?
We put a camera down and we monitored during the first remediation. They are gonna have some checking of that while they do the second.
Thank you. Moving the topic that I skipped is an update on the industrial pretreatment plant.
Yes, thank you. So I have this rather lengthy presentation that I provided to the county last week. And I think that we could go over it in detail if you'd like, but I thought I would just pick out a couple of key slides to look at. Because this is sort of repetitive of conversations we've been having over the last several years. Some of the information, however, is a little bit easier. If I can find it. Okay. Stand by. There we go. So we've been talking about the need for an upgrade at the pretreatment plant for about 3 years now. And so I won't spend time, as I mentioned, on all the background. Just to say, to summarize by saying this is an extremely important facility to our region because of the service it provides to the industries in the Macungie area. And really, the benefit that it provides to these industries that are shown on the slide is direct benefit to them, but it's also a benefit to downstream users because of the performance of the plant. The plant is actually knocking down the organic loading from those industries to a very low level, and that creates organic capacity downstream for all users in the Cleanse Island sewer system. So the flows go through the pretreatment plant back into the pipe down to Allentown for final treatment. The plant is 30 plus years old and needs a major overhaul. We've been working on the engineering for quite some time. I'm going to skip through all of these and kind of hit the highlights. Number of engineering studies over the last 2 or 3 years, really 3 years, to try to hone in on what the actual project should look like. And then in 2024, Boston Beer had announced to us that they would be doing on-site pretreatment. So they would be removing their flows and loads from our plant. And that changed the whole scope of what we're trying to do here. So the future service area looks a little different with Boston Beer out. Eli Lilly is the new large customer that may be coming in or is coming in the next couple of years. They will not need pretreatment. So it's a narrower scope project. And we have presented the findings of that late last year of a project that would kind of change the treatment process at pretreatment. So kind of where we are and what I wanted to share with you that's new from prior discussions is about cost sharing and really what problem are we trying to solve financially. So we have this series of projects that we presented previously that will be needed over the next 10 years or so to create the next generation of pretreatment services at this facility. We're calling it PTP 2.0. And, you know, $50 million or so is a big project. And trying to find the right way to fund this project with a limited number of customers has been the challenge. So we've been focusing our energies recently on having conversation with Upper Macungie Township and the County of Lehigh as the two primary municipal partners that might be able to support this. And both entities have expressed willingness to look at some level of financial contribution toward the project. What I have on this page, this is, I think, new. I don't think we've seen this before. This is a look at debt service for the 10 years worth of projects. And assuming that we're borrowing kind of as the projects are being constructed and assuming there's no upfront capital contribution. So that's what this debt service schedule shows. We're assuming PennVest financing is what we would use. It would look different if we use municipal bonds or some other financing vehicle, but for illustration purposes, we use PennVest terms. So you can see that between 2027 through 2036, that 10-year time period, our debt service goes from a pretty modest level up to $4.7 million a year in debt service to fund the $50 million worth of work that's needed. That's a significant burden to the financials of the system. If there is some municipal support, we're just kind of putting a placeholder of $10 million for roughly 10% of the project gets, I'm sorry, I did the math wrong on that. 20%, thank you. 20% of the project gets funded through municipal contributions. That helps the picture somewhat, but we're still looking at, looking out 10 years at a $4 million per year debt service load. So this conversation with the municipal partners has been ongoing. It's been a little bit slow, but we're making some progress in this idea of potentially having some upfront contributions. But we really wanted the municipalities and the county and this board to understand that those contributions do not solve our problem. We've talked previously about the constraints we have on revenue, and those constraints get worse as we go forward. So what I mean by that is we have three major sources of revenue today that we will not have in the future. The primary source of revenue is our contract with the brewery. The brewery is going to remove their flows and loads from this facility. So that's a roughly $3.5 million loss in revenue. We also have municipal revenues, which are based on old contracts that are not tied to the actual costs of the pretreatment facility. It's tied to other parameters associated with the city agreement and Western Lehigh agreements. So without getting in the weeds on that, essentially with brewery waste coming out of the plant, the municipal revenues also go down significantly because they're tied together. The only robust revenue stream that really maintains or could grow is the hauler program, roughly $3 million a year today. We could potentially grow that over time, if we, if we're able to complete the projects. So we're looking at this pretty significant drop in revenues from where they are today at about $9.5 million, and about, 2 years from now, cutting that down to about $4 million. So wanted to share that with you. That's a practical reality that if we don't change how we earn revenue for this facility, we've got some challenges. What that looks like is on this slide. So there's a lot to look at here. This is new for this group. What I'm showing here in 2026 are budgeted expenses for operating maintenance expenses, the annual capital that we put in our budget every year, $600,000, and then the current debt service for those critical upgrades that we're doing. So we currently have about $10.2 million worth of expenses, about $10.1 million of expected revenue. It's essentially a break even at this point. And next year looks to be roughly the same. This is just escalated costs. When we get into 2028, there are a lot of assumptions here in these numbers, but for illustration purposes, we're assuming we start the year in 2028 with a new way of operating the facility. It will be a lower cost operation because the flows and loads are less. So that's good. We're also trying to illustrate the need to invest in the system continuously and not end up in a situation like we're in right now where we don't have capital or improvements. So we boosted up the annual repair and replacement budget or estimate, and then that debt service from the schedule I showed you prior. Add all of that together and we see a reduction in annual costs from close to $11 million down to $8.5 million, which is good, but we see also the big resulting drop in revenue. And so what we're showing here is a significant gap, and that is what we need to cover with a new cost sharing approach with the municipalities, the conversations with the county, with the industrial users. That's not to say this can't be overcome. We can bridge this gap if the municipalities and the industrial users in particular can agree to how we share the cost. The revenues that I'm showing here do not include any surcharges to the industries today for the high strength waste that we're treating. So there's a significant revenue potential there, and the cost sharing discussions with the municipalities potentially could close that gap. But I think it's important for this board and for other audiences where we're having these conversations to understand that we're not just talking about the capital upfront. Capital upfront helps us, but what we really need is a new structure, a new way of doing the cost sharing long term. We have not made a ton of progress on that part of it. So that's where I think when we get into deciding what projects we're going to authorize and move forward on, we need to feel much more confident that we have the new cost sharing approach in place to pay those future costs. Otherwise, this is the picture that we're trying to avoid.
So, question. So you keep saying municipalities, and I assume you're saying that because this, pretreatment plant service area is Upper Macungie, all the industries are in Upper Macungie, but there's a benefit of downstream available organic capacity because of what the plant does. So you're saying cost sharing amongst all the municipalities because of the total benefit. Is that correct?
That's what I'm saying, and what LCA is thinking is a potential option. I don't know that the downstream municipalities are necessarily open to that. I know Upper Macungie Township has been a willing partner, willing to talk to us about their share. I think our challenge has been to try to quantify what that benefit is to the downstream users, what it means to them. And honestly, one of the things we've been talking about internally is how we look at the other scenario, which is a plant shutdown. So what happens if the pretreatment plant shuts down? What is the impact to the downstream system? What are the projects at Klein's Island that might have to take place because of that happening? So we're not quite where we need to be to have all the data to share with the municipalities to have meaningful conversations, but that's kind of the vein that we're working on now, in addition to understanding where Upper Macungie might be in terms of support. So there's a lot of moving parts to this decision, and it's been a slow process, but we continue to press forward on it.
I would hope people would see the light that the cost could certainly be less if you're willing to contribute to an existing pretreatment plant that can be upgraded versus having to do work at the old landlocked Klein's Island plant, which is you're gonna pay me now or pay me later, right? I mean, if that organic capacity needs to be upgraded.
Yeah, I think yes. You're right. and the projects that will happen at Klein's Island, some of them may need to happen anyway because of aging infrastructure and new permit requirements or whatever the drivers are for new projects at Klein's Island. So really trying to understand the balance of what we invest upstream versus downstream it's a very difficult puzzle that we're trying to put together. And there are a number of downstream municipalities that are currently flowing above regular domestic strength. And they're able to do that now because this organic cushion, in terms of what pretreatment plant is offering, how we fold that into the equations is part of this conversation.
So, Lisa, to that point, I mean, I know you're continuing to have these conversations. What you just said there, and maybe in the preceding 2 or 3 minutes, which really is kind of be doom and gloom, but dire circumstances. And it sounds like you're getting positive feedback from Upper Macungie. Yes.
Yes.
And I mean, what you just said to us? Have you shared that directly with those other downflow municipalities, and what is their reaction to that? Because I think that says a lot.
So I want to just go back to the first part, Sean, of your comment. I would say we have received positive indications from both Upper Macungie Township and the County of Lehigh about this project and understanding the regional value or regional benefit that this project would bring. So we have 2, I would say, active engagements with 2 municipalities, being the county and Upper Macungie Township. We have not yet had the right conversations with the downstream municipalities, meaning really trying to pull all of the information together into a succinct statement, factual presentation of what this means. And that's something we need to do. Yeah. The conversations we've had with the rest of the municipalities thus far have been more conceptual, philosophical, and that's difficult to bring agreement.
Yeah, sure. And in terms of and that's fine. I mean, I know it's, you're still wrapping your own head around it, but in terms of the downflow municipalities, I don't have the map and service area in front of me. Remind me, besides Upper Macungie and obviously the county, how many other, maybe I missed it. That's fine.
I didn't leave it on the screen long enough for you to look at it.
That's all right.
So it's a big service area, and you can see where the pretreatment plant is located, in relation to all the other downstream users. It's way up there in the system.
I mean, and yeah, okay.
So just a follow-up question. So do the old agreements, obviously they limit the flow capacity that everybody owns. Do they limit organic capacity to our municipality?
Sort of.
Okay.
Yes, so the current agreements, which we're talking about rewriting, but the current, that'll be a long process too. But the current agreements include, a hydraulic flow number. That's really the thrust of the agreement is focused on the flow, the amount of flow. But there is also a loading component that's tied to that. There are penalties included in the agreement for exceeding both hydraulic flow and organic flow, but to date, the focus has been on hydraulic flow. So we need to kind of understand a little more about what the agreement might say about the organic side and how that fits into the conversation of new agreements, because we do have municipalities that are exceeding their organic limits today.
If I could, with regard to the hydraulic flows, when I read this, looking off on, I thought it was, the current PTP is 5 MGD, and then what it goes 1.7 MGD, is that correct?
Yeah, that's the estimate.
Oh, somehow I thought it was like a 1/3 reduction, so it must be just the requirements in the future will just be 1/3 of what it presently is, or
Yes, it's, sorry, let me get to these two maps kind of show it. These are not real maps. Our service area is not on straight lines. But the shaded area now just sort of represents a broad service area where all of the flow is coming to pretreatment. Anything that is north or upstream of the pretreatment plant goes through it. And the future is to really narrow that down, remove Boston Beer, remove the entire western and middle sections of the township from the pretreatment plant. So we're really focused on the line that carries the waste from these remaining industries. So that's what brings it from the 5 million gallons down to the 1.7 roughly.
I must have had it wrong in my head there about the numbers. And then Boston Beer and those others, they will be getting down to the 25 parts per million BOD, or will they be exceeding that, or?
No, so they haven't been issued permits yet. So where they'll land in terms of treatment, we're still sort of working on. But essentially, we would expect them to bring their waste down to roughly domestic strength waste, which is maybe 200 or 250 milligrams per liter. So that's really where we have this huge this is where the benefit is coming from. We're not just bringing the waste down from industrial strength down to domestic strength. We're taking it all the way down to near discharge quality. That's what's creating the additional buffer for downstream organic loading that's occurring. If we limit that or eliminate it, then that buffer goes away for downstream organic loading. Phil, you've been working on this a lot. You have anything you want to
Yeah,
add
that's
on
what,
that?
just to follow up what you said, Jeff. Problem is, since 1981, the whole focus has been on flow. And now we're going to flip the script. Now it's going to be based on organic. That's going to take time for people to wrap their heads around.
Well, as you know, you filed a Chapter 94 report. DEP is looking at hydraulic loading and organic loading, just as important to them. That's not being exceeded, so.
And to be honest, the PTP was the reason why the organic has kind of been pushed to the side all these years. But now PTP is going to be changing. Now everyone's got to wrap their head around organic is just as important. It's going to take time for that to sink in, I think.
And I think it's taken some time for it to sink in for us. We've been really focused on the capital dollars and being sure that we have a project that is viable so we can keep the operation going. But really, having some of our partners really asking the hard questions about the loading is helping us to think through how we can have those conversations with the rest of the municipalities.
So when does Boston Beer need an answer from us?
Well, I think that they, I don't want to speak for them, but we're meeting with them every 2 or 3 weeks. And they're moving forward with their design with a kind of a contingency plan B. So we've given them an idea of what the range of limits will be. They know what they want to build. And that would be to treat to domestic strength waste. If we need them to treat lower, they know what they need to add on and they're planning for that. So we're not holding up their project for the base case of their project. It's just the kind of the final touches of to add additional treatment. So
we, from your financial, we have about $4 million gap a year, correct?
yes.
If you look at today's BOD loading from downstreams that people sending without paying for it, and we charge them based on, over, the limit that they are charging, how much of that $4 million covers? Because I'm trying to see, is that the issue, are those gonna, solve half of a problem, 2/3? Because if only solve a half a problem, we have another half problem that we have to solve still for the $4 million gap that we have on the annual basis.
Yeah, we're I don't have an answer for you today. That's part of what we're trying to understand. And again, remember that $4.5 million gap that you're seeing here is basically assuming that the current industries aren't paying anything extra, which we know they will. But we haven't quite figured out the surcharge mechanism for direct users versus other users, and how that might work.
Okay.
So I think the piece that I really want to keep on the burner with the board and with our municipal partners is the timing of this and the decision-making that we have to project forward. I've kind of put Chuck and AJ on hold. Don't bring any new authorizations until we know what we're doing. But our projects will take time to design and implement, and we need to get moving on those. So if there is a decision point where we're ready to say we have enough support that gives us the comfort that we have that funding gap covered, then we can move forward with projects. Or we would need to make a totally different decision, which would be to decommission the facility. And that option needs to stay on the forefront of our minds as a possibility. If we don't solve the financial side soon, we won't have a choice but to say we can't build the project in time, and therefore we need to go a different direction. So that's why I keep putting this on the agenda.
No, I know you would sleep a lot better when this project has been solved, and it's not a headache for you. I mean, you're working on it for 2 years, so it's a big challenge, or maybe more than 2 years.
I'm pretty sure Andrew and Phil and Chuck and AJ and several other people would all sleep much better if we knew what we were doing here.
Thank you for the effort you guys, all of you put in here. I know it's a difficult problem to solve, but it's very the essential piece that we need to get resolved.
Sean has his hand up.
Go ahead, please, Sean.
Yeah, just 2 questions, and maybe I missed it. The first one, going back to your second to last slide there, why is REC-P grant funding off the table?
We applied and didn't, and we're not awarded. I mean, that was why that was on the list. So we applied for $30 million of REC-P funding through the last round, and then we in the latest round, we kind of dove in a little deeper, and because the project has changed shape somewhat, the REC-P program does not appear to be a good fit for this project. So,
I was going to say, because it doesn't preclude you from going for another round, but if it doesn't, I get that it doesn't align. It's trying to fit a square peg.
We also, Sean, I know you're interested in grants. We also looked at the PA Sites program because it has that economic development sort of feel to it. But that was also not a fit for this project. So we're continuing to look for the right program that might help us with some state funding.
Local share account, LSA?
That is probably not worth the squeeze
Yeah, okay.
on it, just because of the size of that program.
Yeah, I'm just trying to grasp at anything I can think of. And then just, I mean, I know I don't expect you to have an answer to this. It's partly due to my own unfamiliarity with Upper Macungie and the surrounding area, but other than obviously Boston Beer and other larger players there, you know, and this is probably more of a question for the township itself, but thinking about the area down there, is there any other land down there that lends well, like Eli Lilly's coming in? Is there any other land down there that is specifically zoned or would, in the future end up being an industrial user that would, of a scale that would need to tie in? I guess the question is there land in which to have additional potential users that would help to cushion?
Yes. I think I understand your question, and I'll answer it in two parts. First of all, the facility upgrades that are planned for pretreatment 2.0 would leave capacity available for growth, so that's a good thing. With some additional upgrades along the way to make that capacity available, but it would leave some capacity for growth. We also have a map of the Upper Macungie area, the drainage basin to the pretreatment plant, and looking at zoning in that area. There's really not a whole lot left that's developable. But what is really probably the bigger opportunity or potential change would be converting or change of use of existing uses. So there's a lot of warehouse development and a lot of light industrial currently doesn't need pretreatment, but if they convert to a different type of use in the future or different user, it would still be light industrial, potentially needing pretreatment. That's a possibility as well. So having a little bit of buffer capacity that we can develop at pretreatment plant 2.0 is a good thing.
Any do you feel for like beyond the 1.7 million that MGD that you can get on additional capacity? Another question is the Air Products, former Air Products site is looking for as a data center. They'll require new water, but is there going to be loads that's substantial there for this PTP for on the discharge side?
So that's a two-part question also. The current facility plan for PTP 2.0, AJ, I'm going to call on you. I believe AECOM said that there would be an additional 1 million gallons available. Does that sound right to you?
Yep, that's about right.
So that's pretty significant additional capacity. As far as the data center on the Air Products site, we have received no plans to review. So we don't know if that's a real project or not a real project, their need for water or their discharge quality. We have really no information to go on with that. So I think we had this conversation before, the cooling technology for data centers is, wide range of options there. So yeah, we're on a wait and see mode for that one.
Uses, and then of course with evaporative cooler, out in the atmosphere. So
that's downstream of the plant. Or that's downstream of the plant anyway. So that won't even go through this plant.
And we keep thinking, or I keep thinking in the back of my head, maybe there's a water reuse option for a data center there because it would be downstream of pretreatment, high quality discharge. Maybe there's an option there if that comes to fruition, but we don't have any plans that we're looking at.
Thank you for the update, Lisa. I appreciate that. Next topic, monthly financial review.
You get to hear from me again.
Been a lucky day.
Your year-end financial report?
Yes. So this is what we look like at the end of December before audit. And audit can change things. So for the month, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on the month. I mean, there was some negative forecast variances on the income side. Cash flows, we were kind of $11 million better than we thought. So we'll get into the year to date. At least we get to compare where the year to date was compared to forecast, and then the rest of the presentation will be more a focus on where we are year to date versus the budget, which I think is a key measures. On the year to date side, income statement, as you can see across all three funds, we ended up with positive variances year to date to the tune of almost $801,000. Water was favorable, wastewater was $500,000 plus, and city was 213 plus. Cash flows were minus 2.3 in suburban water. I'll get into some of the variances. Basically, on suburban water was the only fund that we had where unfortunately we collected not as quickly as we thought we would and ended up paying in advance on payables so it was a timing difference that caused a negative variance that'll come back as a positive variance in January. Wastewater, 6.2 million favorable and city division, 8.7 million favorable. So cash flows compared to forecast were almost $13 million favorable. This would be the key variance that you're looking at. So as you look at year to date and compare it to budget, suburban water finished with an income better by 1.1. Suburban wastewater, $1.4 million. City division was negative by 9.4, but they had an additional $4 million worth of what we would call expense CAPEX that was higher than what we had budgeted. We budgeted 4, they came in at like 10. And that's just the way that we have to handle some of the capital expenditures where there's not any future revenue coming in to match against. On cash flows, $1.2 million in suburban water, again, affected by that non-cash working capital movement scenario. Suburban wastewater, we're positive by 3.4, and city division 17.4, favorable compared to budget. So just looking at, and all of the graphs from now on will be just a full year versus budget. So just looking at income again, 4.2 versus 3.1, so we're 1.1 better. Variances on the income side, a little bit unfavorable on the operating revenues, made up a lot of that on much lower operating expenses. Non-operating items were favorable because we had additional interest income, and we wrote out a little bit of that on higher interest expense, but $1.1 million of favorable income variance. Suburban water cash flows. We said 11.6 was minus 1.6. I'm sorry, I can't read. Minus 400 was the budget, so we're off by $1.1 million. And that one bar, cash from operations, is pretty much the non-cash capital, working capital changes. Again, that's just a temporary variance that'll work its way out in January. There wasn't really any other variances noteworthy in suburban water, so that was good. In terms of metrics, debt service coverage ratio, while we finished at 2.67, that's better than budget. That was better than the target. and that was also better than what we forecasted for the year. Operating ratio, 1.33, again, that's better than budget, better than target, and up a little bit from where we forecasted. And in terms of days cash on hand, we're almost at 255, against 180. That came down a little bit from where I thought we were gonna be, but still good. In terms of wastewater, income, we're favorable by $1.4 million. On the operating revenue side, down by a little bit more than $1 million. We made up for that and then some on operating expenses being lower. Non-operating items were favorable by 1.5, mostly in higher interest income. Interest expense eroded a little bit of that was unfavorable, but I'll settle for a $1.4 million favorable variance to budget.
Sorry.
That's it.
Go ahead, sorry.
That's all right. All right, on the cash flow side, we finished at 7.6. We thought we budgeted 4.2, so we're up by 3.4. Cash from operations, it was better by $1.8 million on the lower operating expenses, basically. Debt service was up a little bit because we took some additional borrowing in wastewater. We borrowed $5 million for WLI projects and took another $6 million at the end of the year for pretreatment. Waited till the end of the year to do it, but. In terms of, so debt service was up a bit, and in terms of CapEx, we were favorable by $2,346,000. And our investing side gave us a $1.8 million favorable variance, mostly higher interest income. Metrics, 3.14, debt service coverage, I like that. 2.43 was budget, better than target, better than what we thought we would finish the year at. Operating ratio, we had budgeted to be less than 1. We had hovered less than that for the year until the end of the year. So we actually caught up to what we said we were going to budget, and that was a little better than what we forecasted. Days cash on hand, we were lower than the 180 target. We talked about just using up some reserves instead of borrowing, and that's kind of where we are. And actually, we finished a little bit less than what we forecasted. On city side income, $9.4 million unfavorable variance. We did okay with operating revenues being up. Operating expenses were down by 3.4, so that kind of washed. The 10.49 is pretty much the high amount of expensed capital that we are undertaking, and we made up some of that in interest expense. Cash flow, $17.4 million favorable. Cash from ops was good. Debt service down a little bit. CapEx was $24 million lower. Keep in mind that we had set out to do a $15 million lead service line replacement project that never occurred. And investing was down by $10.7 million. On the city metric side, 2.13 in terms of debt service coverage ratio. That's better than we budgeted, better than the target, and also a little bit less than what we had forecasted. Operating ratio, 2.1. That's better than budget target, and actually down a little bit from forecast. Base cash on hand, $430 versus the 180, and that was up from where we thought.
Are we planning to draw some of those cash that we have in hand?
Pardon?
Are we planning to draw some of the money from the cash that we have in hand?
Yes, yes.
So 2026.
Yeah, we won't be borrowing anything on the city side.
Okay.
And there are a number of projects that we'll be doing, so. Just a scorecard, I'm dropping all the way to the bottom, 10, 10 and 9. I mean, suburban wastewater had kind of hovered below, double digits for most of the year, so it was good to see that one catch back up. I guess a couple things that stick out for me was, operating revenues, fell below forecast, for the year. So we obviously got a little bit aggressive on the forecasting side for operating revenues, but made up for that on operating expenses being lower across the two of the three funds, and actually without that CapEx adjustment would have been three funds. So we made up some of that. So all in all, not bad. So just summarizing some things, net income, we were good across water and wastewater. Well, the no grant on the LS lead service line replacement didn't help us, but we didn't spend the money either, so. Cash flow is good across suburban wastewater and city division. Suburban water had higher CapEx. Metrics, debt service coverage good, days cash on hand good, so. Not bad.
Thank you.
Actually fairly good, I should say. Let's stop saying not bad. It's fairly good.
Next topic is the system operation.
Thank you. So in front of you, you have January 2026 operations report. I feel like it's been a few months since I've actually given the report in person. It's all on paper. So it's a nice change of pace for it. Starting off with Allentown water production. You'll notice Shant Spring was at 5.81. Typically we're in the 6.5 to 7 range. And even Crystal Spring is a tad lower than normal. And both of those are a result of the drought conditions. So we're really just not getting as much water from our groundwater sources that we need. With that being said, you will also notice an odd thing, which is 3.35 MGD coming from the Lehigh River. A lot of the times we're running 100% Little Lehigh Creek. So typically that number will be up closer to the 12 to 13 range. Notice a little bit of a mixture here. And once again, that's really regarding the drought conditions that we're not only seeing in the groundwater, but also in stream conditions. So for the Little Lehigh Creek, we are required to meet a minimum pass-by flow of 16 cubic feet per second. We were probably the closest to that I've experienced since I've been here. I know it may have been in the past, but it was very low. We were down in the 20s for a little bit, so that was a tad concerning. So we started to draw more from the Lehigh River to somewhat make up for that. As we move further down, you will notice Klein's Island flow 30.08. Also, relating to drought conditions, we do not have as much water flowing to the sewer plant. On that side, though, it is positive. Let's move down to precipitation. We did get 2.52 inches of rain. However, if you looked at the news in the past week, we have now been moved to a drought warning. We were previously in a drought watch. With the drought warning, we are asking for a 10 to 15% voluntary reduction in water usage. And more fun from the weather, you will notice a very large number for Allentown main breaks, 13. In 2025, we had 16 total. So the field crews had a very busy January and February once we get into that next month. Overall, the cold weather really took a hit on not only the field crew, but also the plant crew. Moving over to the last page, we did have 2 permit exceedances for Sand Spring. They were both ammonia related for the loading. We were at 2.5 pounds per day. The limit is 1.1. For the concentration, we were at 10.3, the limit being 9. The plant, almost all of January into Feb, still to this day, we're still right around 10 degrees Celsius, which is extremely low, especially for biological treatment. We did have somewhat of an issue with, it was one of the warehouses, I don't know if it was a fire line or some type of line burst and was essentially being pumped to the Sand Spring wastewater plant. So the flows for about 2 days were astronomical. We lost a lot of biomass with that. And with the temperatures being so low, it's hard to really make that back up until we get some higher temperatures going. So that was really the cause of the ammonia exceedances in this case. But I will tell you that we are also struggling in February at Sand Spring as well. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any question for Andrew? Thank you. Again, I thank from the board to all the people on the field. I seen from my house, it was so cold. I don't want to go out, and those guys, if they have the backhoe and everything dug,
It's been busy.
I was going to get a cup of coffee or something just to help them out, but it was a really cold day, so.
Appreciate that. It's been very busy.
Best wishes for them for the tough time they're having this winter month. Let's see what I have left. Staff comment.
And nothing additional.
Okay, thank you. Solicitor comment.
No comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any public comment?
Comments, thank you.
Thank you. Any board member comment? Okay. So meeting is adjourned. For the executive session, let's meet back at 2:10 for the executive session. I think the Zoom, you have sent the Zoom.
It was
Set separately, yes, so you have the. Okay, thank you guys, have a great week.
Thanks very much.